and for giving us this great opportunity to join you have this time together. And I'd like to start by welcoming you, a very warm welcome, Mr. Erik Eid Hohle, and also the entire POP family for joining us. A warm welcome to the POP Climate Leadership Conversations, a tribute to our chief mentor. The project that we are engaged with here at present is one that aims to strengthen youth leadership and explore tactics that empower the youth to take action and tackle the most pressing environmental issues that we face globally. We are conducting a series of conversations on leadership strategies, recommendations, reflections, and examples, each focused on global leadership and a different pressing environmental issue. This initiative is designed and implemented as a tribute to our chief mentor, Dr. R.K. Pachori. And I'd like to say today we have the great pleasure of speaking with Mr. Erik Eid Hohle, who is the managing director of the highly renowned and acclaimed energy farm in Norway, about leadership for a just energy transition and also equitable access for all. So with this, I'd like to convey my warmest welcome and much gratitude to you for joining us here today. We are hugely honored. And I know that the next hour will be very inspiring to all of us here and many young people that will have the privilege of hearing you and learning from you, sir. Thank you so much once again. And
thank you. The same.
Thank you. With that, I'll hand over to Anna, who'll take us through the rest of the conversation. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I will now introduce our guest speaker for the day. Mr. Erik Eid Hohle has a master from the University of Science as Norway. Erik is founder and co-owner and manager of the Energy Farm in Norway, established in 1991. The main task of the Energy Farm is consulting and education, training, demonstration, and guided tours, courses, and seminars for production of biofuels, bioheat, biopower, and small-scale solar systems, under the concept "From Know-How to Show-How." The Energy Farm in Norway was established in 1991 based on the founder's knowledge from a former R&D career. The farm was converted to a center for renewable energy. The Energy Farm, which is located in Brandbu, 80 kilometers north of Oslo, covers 98% of its direct energy use by renewable energy, mainly bioenergy combined with solar energy. With a close cooperation with the center's large network of expertise from Norway and abroad, the Energy Farm has reduced its climate gas emissions by close to 80% the last 25 years. This has been done with available resources, technologies, and knowledge. The Energy Farm received in 2007 the Nordic Council of Ministers Bioenergy Prize, and that was the same year to the Center for Bioenergy by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Norway. The Energy Farm established in 2014 the Energy Farm International Foundation together with the Indian institution TERI, the Energy and Resources Institute. The foundation's aim has been to build and run renewable energy centers based on the Energy Farm concept in Norway. So far, centers are established in Norway and Ukraine. The foundation's goal is to develop a chain of energy farm centers worldwide based on the EVAV concept. So thank you so much for joining us today. We will have four areas of conversation with the youth across the world. And our first question will come from our senior mentor, Dr. Ash Pachori.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted. Once again, a very warm welcome, sir. We're looking forward to seeking your thoughts and insights on a range of issues, particularly as far as your work in leadership with the Energy Farm is concerned. But we'd love to start the conversation with your thoughts and reflections on what leadership means to you as someone who is provided a tremendous trajectory for many of us to follow in this area of energy and energy transition. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what leadership means to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not so easy to answer that question because defining leadership, if you're talking about how to approach these challenging times when it comes to climate change actions. If we are to, when we are in contact with politicians, and they have to show leadership, of course, which they, in many cases, they do their best, but the possibility to sort of take leadership into real action and in order to really do something to reduce climate gas emissions and promote renewables and use and see to that direct and indirect subsidies of fossil fuels will be reduced. They really need to have to show leadership, which I guess many of them haven't shown so far. That includes our, of course, from our Norwegian side. Norway is a fossil fuel based country in many ways, although we have a lot of electricity based on hydropower. It's hard to see also that the industries can show leadership to sort of take us faster out of the oil age. We who are working on renewables and who want things to happen more quickly, the way we can show leadership, I think, is exactly as Dr. Pachauri has told us through the years. I learned to know him, and I'm really most honored to have learned to know Dr. Pachauri because he really showed leadership when it comes to how to lead the work in the IPCC and also to influence politicians and stakeholders all around the world. So as a model for leadership, I would say, I really would say that Dr. Pachauri has been a great model for me. And when when I learned to know him directly as late as back to 2013, and then in 2014 we established, as Anna told us, the Energigården International Foundation, which we have used as a tool to promote small and medium scale renewables in especially rural areas. Either you are in Kenya or in India, Myanmar, Croatia, Norway, Ukraine. That's where we have had these feasibility studies, which has led to the, so far there are, besides the energy farm in Norway, which is a practical theoretical knowledge center for renewables, small and medium scale. Besides that, we have this establishment in Ukraine so far. So I don't know if that was sort of an answer to your question so far.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was a wonderful response, and thank you for providing that context, sir, because I think understanding that leadership really has different realms. And indeed, we need leadership at the political level. We need leadership in terms of action on the ground. We need leadership in terms of implementation. You have been a pivotal source in terms of trailblazing a lot of work in the field of energy, as you described, in several parts of the world. And I do want to say thank you for mentioning Dad. He had a lot of love and respect for you, and oftentimes would be talking to me so very fondly about you and the work that he had the pleasure of doing together with you, for which was very close to his heart. So I just want to say thank you so much for providing that context. And I think it's really important that we understand this. And yes, we do need a lot more leadership in terms of action, in particular from at the systemic level and the policy and political level, as you rightly described. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. And with that, I'll request Anna to take us forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for that amazing response. And now I will hand it over to Sofia Lana, who is in Spain, who will be asking our second question.
Well, good morning, Doctor and everyone. And good morning only for the two of us. We are the ones who are almost starting the day. I guess the following question is quite difficult to answer, but I think you are the one that can give a proper vision of the following question. Speaking about energy transition, we would like to know, how do you think this looks like? And also how this involves the cooperation between developed countries, as you mentioned, for example, from Norway, which has already the theoretical applications, to help and to promote this to developing countries. And that involves also an extra part, the goal for the Agenda 2030 that we are speaking the whole day. Is it possible to speak about this transition and the Sustainable Development Goal, which is the number 7, I think, that speaks about reachable and non-polluter energy for most of the population? So speaking about the previous question, are we in real goals to achieve for most of the population to reach these renewable energies? And well, I leave you the word, and thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is, of course, a very difficult question to ask in brief, but I would say that of course we have a lot of knowledge about the way to do this transition as a possible success. But as time goes by, I have been looking back to my earlier work as a research officer in the Norwegian Defense Research Offices, when I used to work with energy and how to make energy available in both peace and war times. And through that, of course, the interest for renewables in small and medium scale arrows. I would say that when we see back to 1980, when I was starting this work, the share of renewables were about 20%, and the 80% rest was fossil fuels, including nuclear power. When we look at the same situation today, it's almost the same. I think it's still about 20%, and 80% is non-renewables. So that is back 40 years ago. We have the same situation. That means that we haven't been able to use all the knowledge we already had 40, 50 years ago about how to make this transition possible. And of course, we have to say that it's the fossil-based industries, and because it's so easy to have energy available when you just use these non-renewables, which you can take out all the time in a still larger pace. And the lack of policies that we were talking about also earlier. So in order to have this transition, which everybody knows we need it, and to go more quickly, we have to focus on the policies first of all, I think. The market will not do this alone, so we have to help the market to set this into action. I could have an example on how policies could influence the market. And so when it comes to electric cars in Norway, we have the last 2 or 3 years we have had, or 4 years, we have had very good political also laws and regulations that promotes electric cars, and due to a large portion of hydropower in Norway, it could be possible to say also that electric cars, when it comes to the whole well-to-wheel calculations, are good for the climate. The politicians have lowered the taxes. They have given a lot of set into action different political means to promote electric cars, so that almost 50% of the new cars in Norway now are electric. So that's a very high proportion, and that is not due to the market, I would say, although the car industries have followed that, and those who are marketing cars, of course, have followed that, but it's mainly because of political decisions back 4 or 5 years ago that the amount of electric cars has risen from 1% to close to 50% when it comes to new sales now this year. So it is possible, I would say, but I'm really, although I'm in nature, I'm an optimistic person. I think it's a lot of things that has to make us pessimistic when it comes to how to lower the emissions and how to have this transition in a larger, higher speed to go. Yeah. This was, of course, perhaps too much about the transport sector. When it comes to stationary energy use, one could be more optimistic because there, I think the market development has led to a higher proportion of renewables in both households and industry and business. Although also here the pace is too slow, but I would say in stationary energy use, the politicians still have to lead, but the industries following up much better than when it comes to the transport sector, I would say. Then I'm talking more global and not only Norway. So, but most of all, I think if we are to succeed in this, we have to, of course, use energy much smarter. So energy efficiency is above all absolutely the most important task for us. And there, this is also low-hanging fruit in many ways. So why isn't things happening more quickly? Well, there might be so that we have to use some laws and regulations that reduce our energy use per capita or greenhouse gas emissions per capita through laws and regulations, and not only economic, not only through the taxation or economic actions. Yeah. Well,
Thank you so much. I have to say that your vision is not pessimistic. In my opinion, is realistic. And we all should be on the same boat and think as you. And because everything that we do is energy, and most of the people think that production is greenhouse emission. No, but it's the energy to produce everything, which is polluting the most. And I think it's like 2 or 3 times more gas emission focusing on the energy we use to produce everything than the energy we use in our houses. And so I really agree with you that we have to be more efficient using the energy. I think is key to this transition. And to give a little example that what is happening in Spain, you probably know, we are in the transition following the rules of the European Union. So we are putting laws to regulate how the companies and everyone uses the energy to promote renewable energies. So they can get fines if they don't use clean energies. But at the same time, the government is buying energy to Morocco that is coming from fossil fuels energy, because we have something in due with Morocco, and that is something wrong going on. That is maybe a little example that what is happening in the whole world. And I think your words should spread and get into the minds of many people that are doing wrong decisions nowadays. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sofia, for that wonderful question and reflection. I will now hand it over to Drusha Patak.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Sofia. Hello, sir. So, I mean, you just mentioned about that how when you started in 1991, the energy ratio was 20% renewable and 80% other sources, and after 20 years, it's the same. So my question for all of us would be, what is the objective of energy farm, and what role does it play in just energy transition? As you have seen all these years, that I mean, what is the situation? So could you share that with us, please?
Mm-hmm. Yes. As I mentioned, I used to, I had an earlier career as a research officer in Renewables. And after that, I was working for our government when it comes to introducing renewables mostly in rural areas and in small, medium scale. This was through the 80s. Then through the end of the 80s, there was a huge drop in oil prices, which made the transition from fossils to renewables, which actually had a pretty good time in the early 80s. It was more or less set on hold in Norway, at least. At the same time, I saw that other countries around the world were working eagerly on promoting renewables. So, and I wanted to show also under Norwegian circumstances that it's possible to do something, although the oil prices are low and the competition from that energy source is hard. So then I wanted to take the theories I had got from my research officer career and also working for the government into practice. So then I took the theories back home to the farm, which I at the same time had taken over from my parents. That's how it is in Norway. It's a mixture of forestry and traditional agriculture at this farm. So then to start up the energy farm in 1991 was sort of taking, as you mentioned in your introduction, taking from know-how to show-how. And then I would say it was a great success because we got a lot of interest from schools, from students, from research institutions, from the government, from the agriculture, forestry sector, from politicians who wanted to come and see how we did this through these early 90s. So we had visitors from all over Norway primarily, but also through the 90s, visitors from more than 90 different countries around the world who wanted to see how we did it. And I would say that the success of the energy farm was quite dependent on the networks that we built up through the 90s internationally, so that we got a lot of new knowledge from all over the world, from all sorts of, from industrial, from less developed countries, to see how things could be done in a fossil-free and smarter way. And the energy farm through the 90s started to have programs for training programs for schools and the students, so that they could come to us and have a training period, or shorter visits with school classes or student classes. And then we also started up as consultants for farmers who wanted to develop their renewable energy systems at their own farm, and also for farmers who wanted to start up as heat entrepreneurs, bioheat or solar heat entrepreneurs. So that, let's say, a group of 10 or 15 farmers would come here and go through a program where they were learned how to build up a business plan, how to start up a local bioheat plant, and then as a company, they would start up to heat up schools or industry buildings or hotels or so both private and the municipality buildings, etc., in their home, where they come from. So we have sort of through the energy farm concept, they were trained to go home and start up their own bioheat entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of companies spread all around in Norway now who are doing this, and we see that they earn money on selling byproducts from the forest or from the farmland using, of course, we have to train them on how to make biomass be produced and used in a sustainable way, so that, as you know, bioenergy could also be a non-renewable resource if we do it in the wrong way. So that is part of the training programs, to see that it's being done in a sustainable way, ecologically, and also when it comes to the economic part of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say that the time is still important to do demonstrations and pilot actions. So although this was 30 years ago, we started now this year, there's still a great need to do things in practice for students, for families who want to see how they could do it better in their household, for industry, for politicians, etc. So this from know-how to show-how, I think we have to work a lot more on that still. And of course, through Dr. Pachauri, we really learned a lot on how to reach out to other parts of the world with this. And it was, of course, also for us a great loss when he passed away, and we lost a lot of his influence and knowledge and the network. We would have been so happy to have it still, but that's how it is.
Thank you. I mean, like you mentioned, that how energy farms actually build capacities and shared knowledge with so many organizations, schools, and universities, and they actually went out and then executed it. Same way, I think Norway is itself a model for the entire world. And whenever we see that, where do we want to reach? What is the goal? So everybody talks about Norway, that how the transition is taking place there. So I think what you shared is very important, and of course, sharing the knowledge and the technology transfer is something which is important, and organizations like yours, and they are doing some amazing work to help us achieve that goal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful question, Risha. Now for our fourth and last question, I would like to ask how renewable energy can be promoted locally and regionally, as you've spoken about this idea of moving from know-how to show-how, maybe how this can be implemented in different parts of the world, and also what you see as the role of the youth in this process. Is there anything the youth can do to promote this just energy transition?
Yes, I would say that when you bring this to a local and regional level where people live, it's also easier to reach out. And I think when it comes to the pop movement and how the younger generations should work to promote this, they should really have a focus on, although we should have, of course, a large global prospects on knowledge, we should focus on local projects and how to influence the younger or the elder generations locally. We see that through contacts with schools, etc., or students which are visiting us, they also will go back to their municipality, to their mayor in their same in their municipality, to say that we know a lot of how to do things smarter. So let's just start up and do it locally here. And I would say that the young generation, of course, has a lot of power to do this if they do it in the right way. And that means that we have to create a local, we have to promote local initiatives and create local interest. And then, of course, the stakeholders locally also must follow up, either it's the industry, business, the energy sector, politicians. We often have said that for the energy farm concept, which is, of course, based on local solutions and often rural solutions, that for us, 20 eager mayors are more important than the Norwegian Minister of Energy, because they are more close to where the challenges are. So of course the ministers have to follow up, but when 20 ministers who want to promote local energy production and use go to where all the politicians and the ministers sit, they have a large influence. So it's important to gather. It's important that the local municipalities organize in a way that they can go to the politicians in the central and then tell them how to do this in a smarter way. Yeah. Don't know if I answered you exactly.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you so much. It was very interesting to get your insights in that, and I like how you went back to what you said earlier about using energy in a smarter way, because I think that is so important. I will now hand it over to Ash.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been an extremely insightful discussion so far. I think we have a question from Kevin, who's here with us, and I thought I'd take the liberty of presenting his question. So he says, you face several challenges regarding using renewable energies versus interest from competing, oil, fossil fuel-based companies. What would your guidance be to the youth who are initiating projects, especially in terms of overcoming these competing interests and competing parties that, in terms of being able to achieve their goals? So I say this, I present this question on behalf of Kevin, who's here with us. And Kevin is himself a young entrepreneur and is doing much to try and demonstrate use of eco technologies and such currently in Mexico, but the goal is to be able to spread it. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, sir, on what you think, especially young leaders who are trying to implement initiatives such as his to achieve success while overcoming the challenges that the fossil fuel and powerful industry has and presents.
Yes, depending on also again the policies for how to promote the transition and for the renewables in the country you are. Of course, I think what Kevin and the young generation should at least ask all the time is how is the situation for fossil fuel free future when it comes to a couple of years ahead or the 10 years ahead and so on. How should we build up a plan to have this transition go faster? And we should when it's all sort of wrapped up into saying that we need a fossil-free future. That's what we say at the Energy Farm, that we have been almost fossil-free for 30 years actually now. So it's important to set that as a goal and to tell the stakeholders and the fossil fuel industries that we don't want your product anymore. But it's easy to say. And there has to be a availability for the renewables, either it's solar or bio or wind or geothermal. So if it's not available, then it's of course not easy to talk about this. And then it's technology, either it's a lack of technologies or lack of economic initiatives. Then I would say that you need to have that as a basis, of course, the availability of the alternatives. But you must, the young people must really ask, how does the industry energy sector work on this? Because we cannot look 40 years ahead and still have just 20% renewables as we had in 1980, as we have in 2020. We all know that would lead to a disaster. So I think one have to sort of raise the voice much harder and not be afraid of telling, since the pop movement, those who are into it, they have a lot of knowledge that the elder generation need in order to see that we have a lot of things to do. We should be very, very aware that we have to pace up the transition. So they should be talking loud and clear. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. You're absolutely right. And I think that's one of the keys behind this, which is that, we need to get up and we need to amplify our voices. And I want to thank you very much for providing these examples and insights, because I think that, one of the key things is, even through the work and leadership you've provided to us over the last so many years, is that, like you said, you move from know-how to show-how. And the important thing is that you've been nurturing and promoting so much entrepreneurship and initiatives such as those of Kevin, and we know many other young people are attempting. They're maybe new and growing, but definitely offer the alternatives which are safer and more sustainable for the planet, and certainly for all species that inhabit it. So I do want to say that this has been an incredible conversation, and I want to also bring up the point that you brought up, which you shared with us, which is that being smart in our decisions around energy, and very importantly, moving from inefficiencies, which has been one of the fundamental challenges that we continue to face, is a key part of making this transition, making it a safe and just and accessible transition to all. I also want to offer that that if there's any work that the pop movement and the youth of the pop movement can do to support your incredible efforts around the world, it would be a great honor for us. We have a lot of faith and a great deal of hope in all that you're doing through the energy farm, and we have a great pride and honor for the vision which you've enveloped through your work over the last so many years. So if there's anything that you feel that the youth of the pop movement can do to help strengthen the direction and also the force which you apply to this important work, which is really going to be the make or break for our future, we would be so deeply honored. So, and thank you once again for your words of wisdom, your knowledge and your experience, which no doubt will guide us and many generations to come. I also wanted to ask you as we close, sir, if there are any other sort of final words and reflections you'd like to share with us as we come to a close to today's conversation. We'd love to hear any sort of final guidance and reflections that you might have in your perspective. Thank you.
Yes, since Dr. Hohle introduced us here to the pop movement that he initiated, we also through that learned to know some of the members here in Norway, which he followed up so wisely and nicely. Some of these young people, I really admire them, both for their knowledge and for the way they were sort of approaching how to meet stakeholders, etc. And so I really think that the pop movement, there's a great force which could be used. So if the network which is developed more and more, as far as I understand it, to see that they could gather from all parts of the world, young people to work for this goal. I think that is so important alone, to see that if the pop movement can bring youth from both developed and less developed parts of the world together, because we all have the same challenge. And I don't know how the status is for the pop movement in Norway right now, actually, because I haven't been able to follow up that. But I would like to do that. If you think, Ash, that we should do some efforts, I would very much take that contact up again.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'd be deeply honored, and I wish to convey my thanks to you once again, sir, for everything. It's been a great honor for us to have you here with us, and for your insights on the Climate Leadership Conversation series. And thank you for being here. We are absolutely blessed and grateful to have you as part of the POP family. And I'd like to say that we would be delighted to follow up on the thoughts and ideas and the possibilities that exist for us to come together to strengthen this arena of work, which you've been leading for decades now, and it would be a great honor. So I shall certainly be in touch with you, and as will the rest of the POP family. And I do want to also just underscore, you brought up the point about youth playing an important part, not only in terms of leading with entrepreneurship and action on the ground, but amplifying their voices and making decisions which are very crucial to to the implications for policy level and political level leadership, which will be necessary also. And we as citizens have a great role to play in terms of steering things. But I do believe that coming together is a force to reckon with, and it's an honor for us to be able to join hands and lend the support that we need to have coming together to protect our planet. So with that, I'd like to convey my deepest gratitude to you, sir, and to all the young leaders we have with us over here, Sophia, Kevin, Anna, Drisha, Dr. Norma, and the many who I know who are watching us via YouTube and will do so too in the days and weeks to come. So thank you very much, sir, and we're blessed and honored to have you with us. Thank you once again for your time and insight.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this event, which has been very. Thank you for your good questions, and I really feel that we are thinking in the same path, and we should hopefully see that the future will be prosperous when it comes to this sector. And of course, I would love to invite the folk movement to come here and visit us at the energy farm, and all of you, if we could have the occasion, we would be very happy to have some sort of arrangement up here. It's not so easy in these times, but let's hope for the future again.
Thank you so much. We'd be honored, and we hope that the time will come soon and that we get past the pandemic. But till then, I wish everybody good health, safety, and thank you for your time, for joining us, and for sharing your wisdom and experience. We really look forward to doing many good things together, sir. Thank you, and thank you all, family. Thank you, sir.
You the same.
Thank you.